case, we're going to create what's known as a diptych. Now, this is a type of piece in which we've got two pieces side by side that we're going to compare. So I'm going to create two separate compositions here. One I'm going to set up as being about 12 centimeters wide. So I'm going to set this up 12 centimeters wide here, and 12 centimeters for the other side. And the reason why I'm doing two different images is because this gives us a chance to compare ideas. So I'm going to just set this up about 12 by, let's say 18 centimeters. And I'm going to set this up on each side so that we can place them side by side and compare how they look. Because there's going to be some similarities, some things that are the same, and some differences between the two of them. So you can do this on the same page like I am, or you can choose to have them on two separate pages, but I wanted to show them to you side by side. And what we're going to compare them is the idea of warm weather versus cold weather. And a lot of the things that we can do between these two can show this off. So I need to come up with a scene, an idea that is going to represent warm weather. So I think one of the things that I want to try is to show it by having a person in a location and have differences throughout the year for warm and cold weather. I'm going to start off by having that person in an area where they've got a tree, because usually with a tree we can tell the difference between warm and cold weather by the way the tree looks. It might be covered with ice, it might be covered with snow, it might have leaves if it is a deciduous tree, or it might have lost those leaves in the season where trees lose their leaves. In the northern hemisphere, that's fall or autumn. And I'm going to do both of these trees and make them kind of similar. I definitely want to try to make them about the same. And all I'm doing right now is sketching out my ideas. I know I'm going to use warm on the left side and cold on the right. Now, if you want to do a comparison with trees and people, that's great. If you can think of another way that people compare warm and cold temperatures, you can go ahead and do so however you so choose. It's going to be different based off of your experiences. I'm going to show it off in this fashion with a tree. So we've got some branches coming through here. I know I'm going to have some of the roots of the tree showing on either side, and I think I'm going to have, on a warm day, someone relaxing, taking it easy, because they're outside and they are enjoying the day. I think I'm going to sketch somebody out who is napping underneath the tree because they're enjoying the day. It's a warm day and they can be resting underneath the tree, just taking it easy. And your person might look different than mine. I'm going to draw a man. You might be drawing a woman, a girl, a boy, however you want to ensure it. But this is what I'm sketching out. I'm drawing a human man underneath the tree, resting on a warm day. Just sketching that out. And other things that might happen on a warm day, we might have some flowers. We might have grass visible on the ground, but somebody may be enjoying this day specifically. And I'm just sketching this out to get an idea. I'm also going to have the sun high in the sky, and I'm going to have some colors here that will show the warmth of this day specifically. Having some aspect of the sky. Now, on a cold day, I'm going to have it be overcast. It's not going to have the sun clearly visible, and I think I'm going to be using cooler colors throughout, making it overcast so that we don't see very bright colors, and maybe the person is in near the same place, but instead of being outside and being warm, maybe they're cold, they're frigid. They're rubbing their chest, or they are huddled over because they're shivering. We want some indication that the person is looking different on one day to the next. And usually when people are cold, they might hunch over, their legs might knock together because they're chilly. They might make some changes in that scope, making it look different on both sides. And instead of flowers and plants and things that are growing, I think we're going to have a lot of snow on the ground. I'm going to have a shadow for the tree and a shadow for the person here so that we can see how they are. We've set up how this is going to look. The next step that we're going to take a look at is the colors that we're going to use, which is going to affect both of these compositions. Now we've got our two sides sketched out. What we're going to do is use some colors to help determine what the diptych is going to look like. Now with this, we want to choose colors that are going to give us the sensation of warm versus cold. So I have some watercolor pastels here, and what I'm going to do is pick some colors that are going to help us get those two different ideas. In the warm setting, I'm going to choose warmer colors, oranges, yellows, browns, reds, that kind of thing, and put those down first. And then on the other side, I'm going to choose cooler colors to make it look like the composition is colder. Don't worry about having real colors or what something really looks like, because it's going to be different for both of these compositions. So I'm going to be choosing cooler or colder colors like violets and greens and blues for my other composition. Now, to help out with this, if you don't have watercolor pastels, you can use colored pencils, you can use crayons, you can use whatever type of material that you would like. But one thing that I recommend more than anything else, and that is using light colors first. I'm going to start by using a yellow here, because yellow is going to be the lightest color that I use in this space. I'm going to go throughout the entire piece and start coloring in yellow because I want it to be a base color that I use. And it's going to determine all of the different colors that I put on top of it. It's going to be the base. This way, it gives us an easier time mixing all the colors and having them all make sense in the composition. The other thing that I'm going to do is work from back to front. I'm going to color in all of the background, the negative space, the sky, the sun, that kind of thing first. And then I'm going to do all of the other colors as I move forward. So I'm going to get the base color down here, getting a lot of yellow in the sky, trying to cover up all of the white space from the paper that I've got. And then I'm going to use a similar color that's lighter for the cold side. In this case, I'm going to choose a light blue. Now what this is going to do, and you'll see that we can see all of the color underneath here as well, and the sketch that I've still got underneath. You can see all of that on the yellow side. You're going to be able to see a lot of it on the cold side too. What this does is give us a base that we can use together to make a stronger composition overall. By putting a base color down, it gives us an idea of what the piece is going to look like and how it's going to be affected. Now, I've got my cold side down here, and that's looking a little bit dark for what I like. So I'm going to take a white watercolor pastel and blend this out in the same fashion for the sky. Blending these two together. Now, you can usually use different colors to blend together to make stuff stand out, make it easier to work with, make areas lighter or darker based off of what you're looking at. I'm going to do the same thing for the foreground here, using some white, blending these together so I see my sketch underneath. You can see some of those pencil lines are coming through a little bit. Now I'm going to use some of the other colors to kind of help blend these out and work them together. So in my background here, I've got yellow to start off with. I'm just going to start using another color to kind of get the sky around my sun. Now, you don't need to use realistic colors. Sometimes the sky will be orange, but a lot of the times it's not going to be. We're using these colors to give a sense of the time of year or the temperature that's around, how warm or cool it is. And it's going to be different if we use warm colors like oranges and yellows and reds than if we were using something else. Like if I did a blue sky over here, it's going to look a lot cooler by comparison. It's not going to look as warm. I'm just going to use some additional colors. In this way, I'm going to get a darker orange around this so that we get that change going from light to dark here around that area. Really cool by comparison. And now I can start getting the grass. Now, if I want, I can work a little bit more into some of the cooler colors because green is a cooler color. But I'm going to use a yellow green for my grass here and use more yellow green in the areas that are shaded here near my tree, layering that up closer. And then as it gets further up, I'm going to press lighter and lighter. And then mix that with the yellow. This way it gives us a sense of depth, gives us an idea that some of the areas are darker up close, and also, even though it's a warm day, this person sitting underneath the tree is actually pretty shaded, pretty comfortable, pretty cool. So now that I've got these down, I'm going to start getting the tree. The tree, in this case, I'm going to start off with an orange. And in the case where it's starting to mix here, you'll notice that when it mixes with the green, it makes more of a brown color. Just going to carry that up, start blocking out the main colors that I've got here. Get those sections. And for the person, I'm going to use just a simple color for brown. I just want the idea of a person. I don't need to get into too much detail because I'm mainly using just color to kind of tell what's happening. It's a vague male shape. We kind of know where they are. They're laying down in this kind of field. I'm going to go through, just cover up the rest of those white spots, making sure that I get them covered up so that the colors are the most important things. Because we're mainly trying to color based off of the different colors that we see here. Now that I've got that set and blocked out my main colors, I'm going to do it on this side as well. I'm going to take all of my warm colors and put them over on the side. I don't need them right now. I'm going to start working with the cool colors. Bring these over here so we can start working with them. These are all purples and violets and other colors. I'm going to start off in the same fashion with getting the sun. But I'm going to press down a little bit harder with the white so that I get the sun. Remember, this is an overcast day, so I'm going to blur out that sun and then start working with some colors in the sky that make that area just a little bit darker. So I'm going to use some blues, kind of blend out the sky, making it a little bit darker as it heads down. We get that kind of blended look. And one of the things that I can do to make this a little bit easier is to blend those colors, that darker blue, with the light blue that I already put down. You can always blend colors with an existing color that you've already got on the page, and this smooths over those darker colors and makes them a little more muted, a little less strong. Now that we've got that, I'm going to get the ground like we did over on the other side. This time, however, I'm going to use some violet and do the same kind of thing that I did before with a stronger base down here and pressing down lighter as I start working up so that my ground looks different than my sky. We've got that comparison. All I need to do to kind of blend these together again, I used this in the top portion, so I think I'm going to use white in this lower section, because I think in this we really want to stress that the ground is different than the sky, and the sky might be overcast, so it's a little bit dark by comparison. Now, we used an orange for the tree last time. I think I'm going to grab a brown for this and do the same kind of shapes here for that tree. Now, this tree on this side, we are going to add some leaves and branches to, but I think on this side we can start working with just the branches. We don't need to have all of the details of the tree involved. And we'll add details later on. We're just kind of blocking out large areas of color today on this section. There we go. I used brown for a person last time. I think I'm going to change it up because our person is going to look a little bit different. So I'm going to use a darker blue and make it look like they're really shivering. They're holding themselves, they're clutching their chest. And this is little more than a stick figure. It's a little bit thicker in some areas, but you can tell that they're cold. They're shivering. They're close together. They're not moving around very much. Now, we could stop there, but the next thing that I'm going to do is add some detail and some texturing so that our viewers can really get an idea of the two different temperatures. But what we've really done is block out all of the colors and know where they're coming from in this stage. The last stage that we're going to do on this is kind of working with colors that we've got here to establish some different ideas of light and dark and play around with how these different forms look. So the first thing that I'm going to do is add some texture and color to the warm side over here, where we've got mainly warmer colors. I'm going to start off with some of the same colors that I've started with, but make some minor changes. Like, for one thing, I'm going to use some green and use it to make some leaves on the tree. Now, all I'm doing in this section is blocking out some simple shapes. Now, with our composition here, all we need is the idea of a tree, getting the base shapes that we've got. So I'm just making some dots around here that could be leaves. Basically growing around this area, adding some of that same green that I used in the lower portion in the upper portion to make it look like this tree has leaves. And I'm pressing down hard enough to cover up the materials that I've already worked with. The other thing that I'm going to do is add some other warm colors to create some shadow. Now we've got a dark orange. If I add red to this, it's going to create a shadow on this side of the tree. I want to create a shadow, or shadows, I should say, away from where the light is. So anywhere that I can see a branch anything along those lines, I'm just going to add some red to make it look like a shadow. And I can use that hard, or I can press down lighter to get that change. I can also do that in my person, mixing the red here with the brown to get an idea that they are relaxing, they're enjoying themselves on this bright, sunny, warm day. And all I need to do is add that shadow away from the light. I know that the light is coming up here from the sun, so I just make those little sections, little separations. The other thing I can do is add some grass, and I'm doing this with the same kind of marks that I had from up above, using some green to kind of blur these areas together, adding a texture into that section, lighter and darker, and I'm just using a little more pressure to get that out. I'm going to put that kind of patchy in the lower portion throughout the piece, making it smaller as it moves further away, kind of like what we did with last lesson. And then I can add some different colors on top. Now, if you want to add flowers or other types of plants to kind of show that off, you can, but all I'm going to do is use a little bit of brown here, because I have it on my person, to shade this area in. To show that it's a sunny day, I'm just going to use some brown to create a shadow underneath our person, as well as the tree. And I'm just doing it as little lines to kind of help give the illusion, the idea of grass. And I can finish that off very simply with a little bit of shadow on the leaves as well. I don't want to get into pure black because this is going to be a color, mainly a color composition. So I'm going to add some brown in this section just to show that value difference. A little bit of shadow in those areas, once again, just away from the light source to get those changes that are happening, light and dark in this. And we've got mainly warm colors throughout, making it look like a sunny day. Well, that's going to change when we move over to the other side. We're going to use completely different colors to work with this idea of a cold scheme. So on this side, I'm going to keep with the colors that I've got and do some of the similar things on this side. The difference is I am going to create some highlights. When I talk about highlights, those are areas that kind of grab your eye and make it look like there are some lighter sections. So rather than drawing the shadows on this side, I'm going to use some white to get the highlights on the tree. So I'm going to do these on the side that's facing where the light is, kind of bring those out, and I want to have the white there because it makes it a little bit stronger, makes that area a little bit lighter, because right now my tree is some of the darkest area that I've got. I've already worked with some of the shadows that are here, but I'm going to add some to the person by using some violet. Add some darker sections around them to make it look like they're shivering and they are cold, that kind of reddish violet coming into play in that area. And I can also add some white onto the ground to create that sense that there is some snow. And I'm just using a lot of pressure on the ground here, blending that a little bit further in the upper portion, but I'm going to get some shadows on the bottom with a little bit more of the blue. With this, I'm going to use some blue to create shadows, making really small little repetitive marks over these areas to kind of showcase the shadow of the tree, making it come forward like this. And this is looking kind of dark, so what I'm going to do is add some white to make that a little bit easier to see. And I want to make sure that there is a shadow on the person as well, but the person is not as tall as the tree, so those shadows are going to be a little bit smaller by comparison. Finally, take a little bit of white and in these shadows blend them out a little bit so that it doesn't look as dark. And what will happen, because I'm using these watercolor pastels, because I'm using these watercolor pastels, this blue is going to blend with the white and make it look a lot lighter by comparison for the shadow. So it won't be as dark. And we can shift that back and forth, make it easier to look through. But we've got two different scenes here. One in which somebody's very cold, we get the very idea that it's a human, and another idea of a human over here. The only thing that I think I need to change over on this side is get a little more yellow in this lower portion to make this look like a human. So I'm going to do the same thing that I did on the dark side and create some highlights. I'm going to do that in yellow, blending it with the brown to kind of help make that brown look a little more warm. Sometimes all you need to do is add a little bit of yellow to that. I can do that on the tree as well. It's not going to change a lot, but it will make those highlights stand out, those areas of light on here, making that stand out and making it just a little bit warmer. But here's two comparisons. We've got warm colors on one side, cold colors on the other. We see two different times of year where these characters are and how that environment, how that cold is affecting them, or that warmth, how they look in